Well, good evening. I don't know if Mercedes is still connected or not, but she's our one live viewer at this point. I am going to go ahead and do our devotional that we do on Sundays. A little later than usual today, but with Father's Day, I hung out with my family most today, and so now I'm going to do our devotional. We continue to work our way through the Beatitudes, and we come down to the fifth beatitude. It's hard to believe we've been doing this 5 weeks already, and so I'm going to switch my screen here so you can see the scriptures. And oops, that's not what we want. So we come now to verse 7. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Or happy are people who show mercy, because they will receive mercy. And this is an interesting one of the parables, because, or not parables, of the Beatitudes, because they, the very thing that we're promised, mercy, is also what we will receive from God. So what God calls us to do is to give mercy, and that's what we will receive, is mercy, which is kind of an interesting thing in this beatitude. And but here's the thing I think that is important for us to think about as we think about this beatitude, and we think about this whole idea of if we give mercy, we're going to receive mercy. It's very much related to the last beatitude where we talked about justice. And this idea of us giving mercy and we're going to receive mercy is very similar to this idea that God's blessing will be measured out on us or given to us according to our attitude towards our neighbor. So that somehow the mercy that God shows us is related to the mercy that we show others. That's a pretty powerful thought, that the mercy that God shows us is somehow related to the mercy that we give to other people. And that's kind of what I want to spend our time unpacking tonight. Again, these times together, try to keep it right around 10 minutes. And so I want to dive right in, and here's the thought about this mercy and mercy connection. One of the authors I looked at said that this whole idea is kind of like the law of gravity. You throw something up and it's going to come down. And this is kind of like the law of mercy, that if we give mercy, we're going to receive mercy. And I've never thought about it that way. I think it's easy to think that mercy is something either we earn or that people should give just because it's the right thing to do. But somehow God is saying to us that mercy that we receive from God is in measure to the mercy that we have given to other people. So I want to unpack that a little bit more. But here's this basic idea. The more I show mercy to my brother or sister, the more merciful God will be to me, is how I see this kind of playing out. Now, it doesn't mean that God doesn't give us mercy otherwise, but it does seem to point to this idea that when we look at this passage, when we think about the scripture, and if I switch back to the NIV, oops. Give me 1 second. I got to open that back up again. And blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. So, if this really is kind of a law like gravity, um, where does Jesus teach about this in other places? I think it's good to think about that. So we're in Matthew 5, chapter 6. If we switch over to Matthew 18, and another area where Jesus is teaching, Matthew 18:21, and we have this parable of the unmerciful servant. And this person comes up to Jesus and says, Peter came up to Jesus and said, "How many times should I forgive my brother? Up to 7 times?" And it seems in this passage that Peter is kind of like, well, good for me. I'm willing to forgive somebody 7 times, and it's as if Peter is clearly expecting that Jesus is going to say, "Oh, good for you, Peter. Great that you've forgiven someone this many times." And Jesus answered, "No, I tell you, not 7 times, but 70 times." So the point of me bringing this up is that there's definitely a connection between mercy and forgiveness. There's definitely a connection between mercy and forgiveness. Because if we're showing mercy to someone else, in many ways, we are forgiving them. We are giving them grace. We are giving them mercy. So, let's unpack that a little further. So, we are often called on to forgive other people, to forgive someone if they have wronged us, and at the same time, we need to recognize that it is not always easy to forgive. It is sometimes really hard to forgive, and sometimes it's even easier for us to kind of put our minds around Jesus' words, and it helps us to forgive others. When we are able to say, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." It's almost easier to say we forgive someone else when we use that language that Jesus used on the cross. And I think this is related to this idea of mercy, so that we are giving mercy as we forgive. Let me look at my notes here for a second. One author said that forgiveness is difficult, sometimes heroic even. It takes a hero to be able to forgive, but it is indispensable. Without forgiveness, evil multiplies ceaselessly, and only the courage to forgive puts an end to evil's growth. I like that quote. That somehow when we forgive another person, we're putting an end to evil. And that is just a powerful thought to me. And so, again, sometimes people say, "I can't forgive them." But if we put Jesus' words in our mouth and say, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do," that it comes more easily to forgive other people. And so, part of forgiveness is learning how to release a grudge and release something that we hold against another person. And that's also giving mercy. So what does that look like? Well, this is another quote. "No longer do we have grounds for holding grudges against those who have wronged us. If faith and hope testify that God will give us some greater good than the evil we have suffered." So this idea of mercy, giving mercy, will allow us to receive mercy. It's all wrapped up in this ability that if we can give mercy and forgiveness, that we can cease the evil that's started, and that God will do something greater good because of the evil that we've suffered, and out of that evil. And this is a key idea in Christianity, that God takes the bad thing and makes it good. In other words, Christ's resurrection is all about death being transformed into life. And forgiveness and mercy is taking something evil, something that is not like God, and when we release it, and when we give mercy, when we forgive, when we choose to do what God would do, God can use it to transform us, but also that God can transform that other person. I want to close with this thought. We're running out of time very quickly. And so I'm going to switch here to Romans 12, verse 20. And this is Paul's way of addressing this same idea, that instead of holding a grudge, instead of not forgiving, that Paul says it this way: if your enemy is hungry, feed them. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I have always read that verse, and I'm like, yeah, I want to heap coals on this person's head. I want to somehow see them, God get them for what they've done. And one author I looked at on this passage, it just was really interesting. I was like, really? I didn't know that. That possibly not. This is not about retribution. This is not about, oh, I'm going to heap coals on this person's head. It's about this idea that when we say this phrase, heaping burning coals on his head, that people in Jesus' day would go, oh, this is kind of like when someone is refining a precious metal. That if they wanted to do that, they would put the metal in the fire, and then they would heap more fire. They would heap hot coals on top of the metal, and that in doing that began the refining process of that metal. I don't know about you, but that was kind of a powerful picture to realize, oh, this isn't about retribution. This isn't about getting them back. That when we talk about heaping burning coals on someone's head, it's inviting God to refine them through this process. That somehow God can use my forgiving them to refine them. And that I'm not seeking to get back at them. I'll close with this thought. We often, when somebody does something to us, we often kind of get caught in this loop of saying, you owe me. You did this, and now you owe me. And you're going to pay for that. And we kind of get into this sense of keeping the books, and we can keep track of, okay, this person owes me something, and this person owes me something, and this person owes me something. And we kind of get caught up in who owes me and who needs to pay. We're all about justice when it's justice that we think we deserve. And so part of this, getting to this place where we can give mercy so that we can receive mercy, is getting to a place where we can say, no one owes me anything. No one owes me anything. I don't know about you, but that is a pretty powerful thought, that I would get to the place where I can forgive others, give mercy, and say, nobody owes me anything. You don't need to pay me back. I'm not going to pay you back. I'm not going to, there's nothing owed. That we can say, I forgive you. I want to give you mercy. And nobody owes me anything. In fact, I owe Jesus everything. So, I don't know. That was a kind of a powerful thought for me tonight as I was thinking about this passage and reading about different ways to think about this passage. I hope that is meaningful to you. A couple of quick announcements. We're going to continue to do youth group at 7:15 this week. That will be the last Wednesday in June. Starting in July, the first Wednesday in July, we're going to move the start time back to our normal Wednesday start time, 6:45. And all of the Wednesday evening activities, children, youth, and adults, will start at 6:45, and we'll meet at different places outside. We're going to stay in the amphitheater. Again, that starts on July 1st. Almost didn't announce it tonight because I don't want to confuse. We'll stick with the 7:15 schedule this week, last week of June, and then in July, we're going to start at 6:45. The other thing is that I know it's a little last minute, but most of you have fairly flexible schedules in this season, and I thought it would be fun if we gathered together and went to go do a hike at Mount Spokane. And so we're going to meet in the parking lot on June 27th and at the church. And we can't take the van because of COVID guidelines, so we're going to have to travel as family groups. So hopefully you can get a ride and your family will want to participate. We're going to meet at the church at 11 on the 27th. We're going to head up to Mount Spokane. We're going to hike on a trail that's about 5 miles. It's rated as easy, but it is about 5 miles. We're going to eat lunch while we're up there, so bring lunch, bring your water bottle, and I will bring some refills for your water bottle, but bring your water bottle and bring it full. And then our goal will be to get back to the church about 4 o'clock. So if you have any questions about that, please shoot me a text. I sent out an all-group text about that today. So I'm over time tonight, and I need to wrap this thing up. So it's been good to be with you this evening, and I look forward to seeing you all again on Wednesday. God bless.